This video is proudly sponsored by Newtype. Tools, accessories, model kits, these guys have it. Hop over to newtypehq.com and use the link below to help this channel out for future builds. Hey, what's going on my dudes and dudettes, and welcome back to another exciting build from a brand new company called Dream Gears, with collaboration with Iwata Airbrush Company. So, why don't we get started with the 1/3000 scale ARKHITECT ADVANCED REASEARCH COLONIZer. And without further ado, let's get to it. Yo, welcome back my dudes and dudettes to another unique build from a new company called Dream Gears. And if this is your very first time onto this YouTube channel, welcome. So you dudes and dudettes have known me for 3 years, up to 4 now, that I have been struggling right now trying to decide whether I should buy myself a new airbrush. And luckily enough, I was actually dabbling across other different airbrush brands such as the Badger for quite some time. But in that time, I told myself I really need to update my game on buying an Iwata airbrush. You know, nothing too expensive, nothing at the same time will hurt the pocketbook. But in that time, I came across a unique article a couple months back that Iwata was actually partnering with Gears Industry and working on a unique model kit, something that bonds between Star Wars and Star Trek and maybe a little bit of Spaceballs in between. So thanks to the wonderful folks at Burbank Hobbies, we are going to be building the ARKHITECT ADVANCED REASEARCH COLONIZer Iwata spacecraft. This came out of nowhere. I was just really shocked that Iwata actually made an airbrush of a spaceship, which is really cool. I mean, right off the bat, I give like a vibe that it has a little bit of a Star Destroyer kind of vibe. I love the reciprocal at the top that's like an engine core. And then the midsection, it's called the Pangu core, which is weird. And then to wrap it up at the back, you get the Cycle Ion Transition Engine number 2. And then the icing on the cake, it actually comes with an action base that actually glows, which is great. But the wonderful thing about this model kit, it actually has a fully functioning LED light system for this unique design. And I love that. It's a super cool. Other side of the box, you get more information about this colony ship, and that's pretty much it. Now, without further ado, let's take a look what's inside the box. As always, you are happily greeted with the instruction manual. Give you a nice clean black and clean blue crispness of the bold letters of the ARKHITECT system. At the same time, the first page gives you a nice layout on what you can expect for this model kit for its runners and its LED light systems. Now, there isn't a lot of runners for this particular model kit, which is great, so it should be an easy build to do, but the action base is really something that's special. Not only has its own built-in LED light system, but it actually acts as an input to actually put in a micro USB power supply to power on this whole entire ship. Next page gives you a nice shot of the Ion engine assembly in the back and a complete color guide if you choose to do some custom painting, which is always a great thing to do for this model kit, followed by more tight shots of the actual engine core assembly and the front part of the ship, followed by an even bigger spread of this model kit when it's fully painted and fully detailed to your heart's desire. And one thing I love about this, they actually put a little bit more lore into the actual Ion system for this particular Pangu engine assembly. I love that little attention to detail. And the wonderful thing I like about this, it's actually modeled after the Iwata HPC airbrush. So don't get it confused. This is not a fully functional airbrush. This is a model kit. So don't get the two confused. I know a lot of people will. Next page gives you a nice diagram on how the light pipe system works for the both engine assembly and the main engine shaft itself, followed by the final page gives you a nice design on how to interconnect the ship to the base, and then how you plug it into a micro USB dongle, which is actually really nice. And there's a few people out there that still use micro USB cables, but it would have been cool if they actually include a Type C, but it's a small little gripe, nothing to worry about. So let's talk about the most important part about this model kit, the runner. First, runners up, you're gonna get these nice light gray pieces that have tons of great surface detail, definitely reminiscent of the side panels to the Millennium Falcon, but definitely more characteristic design of an actual Super Star Destroyer from Star Wars. Once again, you get some more surface detail around the reciprocal with this nice piping system around the side and the edges, and also at the same time, it kind of continues very nicely to the point where it looks nice and organic. Love it. Love that attention to detail, man. It's super rad. I can absolutely feel the love of this model kit, and you can see the detail in the right front part of the nozzle. Definitely gives like a sense of a main deflector dish you would see in Star Trek. As for the other runners, you get some nice dark gray runners for specific key areas like around the action base, and at the same time key areas around the Ion engine assembly as well as the core Pangu engine. That's such a weird name, I'm sorry. And then you get a handful of clear runners, which are going to be primarily for the light piping section of specific key areas on the ship, which is great. So that means the LEDs are going to be pretty bright for this particular model kit to illuminate those specific areas. You get a handful of light brown runners pieces that are going to be around the main engine section, at the same time around the Pangu section as well, which is great. They're not a bright or dark brown, they're like between a reddish brown, so it definitely gives you context. Now let's talk about the last thing about this model kit, which is absolutely great, and that is going to be the LED light system. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, they're using a micro USB to power the whole entire model kit. It's a shame they didn't go with a Type-C USB because that's more commonly used in everyday appliances, but at the same time, it's not a bad thing. As you can see here, there's a clean LED light strip that's going to be for the main hull, the actual ship, one for the Pangu engine, both engine assemblies, and that's going to be for the action base to turn the whole thing on and off. You get a nice little rod to stand the ship upright onto the action base, and that pretty much wraps it up. And I'm actually very excited to get started on building another Starship model kit. It's been a while. Super excited for this. Alright, now time to add some additional detail flourishes for the main hull. So I'm going to be using a combination of two unique metallic paints, and I pretty much have used this for other future model kits in the past. I'm going to be using a mixture between of copper and like a dark aluminum silver. And I don't want to go anything too bright. I want to keep like the color consistency between the two even. If I have one that's too bright over than the other one, that's going to look really cheap and flimsy. So I'm going to stick with these two color balances to make those pipes really pop out, and also at the same time target specific key areas on this model kit that make it look really cool. I'm going to be using the tip end of my actual snippers that I usually use the whole runners in there to do a little fine little detail. Shouldn't take no more than about an hour to do it just right. So in this next part, I want to try something drastically different for the LED light system for this model kit. So what I want to do is stick in 2 Pico red LED lights into the side panels of this particular ion drive system, but the main blue section around the top is where I want to add some dynamic lighting in that section. So what I'm going to end up doing is cut out that section, place in about 5 to 8 different Pico LED rotating LED lights in that section to give a sense that it's like rotating going left to right, back and forth. Now the reason why I want to create that illusion is because I don't want to put like a breathing LED light. It just looks kind of basic. I want to try something really dynamic to make it look really cool. So I'm going to use an Evans Design 6 Pico Night Rider LED lights to create that effect. And this should be really difficult to install because the actual capacitor for this particular LED light system is really big, so be mindful of the space that you're working for this model kit and you shouldn't have any problems. But if this is too hard for you, just stick in a breathing LED light and you'll be just fine, or just stick with the LED light system that comes with this model kit. Alright, now we reached the part of this model kit that I'm actually super excited to work on, and that's going to be working on the main hull. Now, since there is a great deal of cavity space in this section here, I want to utilize that perfectly for the big capacitors for the main ion section on top and the bottom. So in these specific spot areas, I'm going to be using Deca and chip LED lights. I'm going to use one chip LED light in the very front of the ship, so that way it creates like the right kind of light dispersal the way I want it. And then I'll be using some Deca LED lights to fill in the spots in between the middle of the ship, while at the same time not compromising anything, but leaving just enough cavity space for additional external wires. This process is very lengthy, at the same time shouldn't take too long to do, but again, if it's too hard for you, don't go that extra step, just stick with the LED light system that comes with this model kit and you should be good. Now for the actual Pangu system, I'm going to be sticking in a Deca LED light in there, and then I'll be dabbing onto there just a little bit of a clear red Tamiya paint on top of the LED diode. This is actually going to make it not a bright yellow, but actually at the same time a reddish orange to create that illusion that it's actually like really, really bright and hot. Alright, now that I got one ion drive complete, it's now time to assemble the second one. As you can see here, I had to do some custom cutting in between these two particular peg pieces because the thick batch of wire was tending to get into the way. At the same time, I had to think logically on how I was going to work with this big thick capacitor. So it didn't make sense trying to funnel it into that small little hole. I had to do some custom drilling to make this work. So since I have a great deal of cavity space in the main hull area, this shouldn't be an issue to try to hide all that external wire in there. So that's basically what I want to do. Alright, now that I got the main hull done, it's now time to complete the second ion engine. Now, this part is going to be really delicate. I've already taken all the external wires and then I'm going to be routing it through this actual Pangu engine assembly, so that way I can interconnect them both, engine assembly and the main hull, into the main engine area. This part's going to be pretty lengthy, at the same time very difficult to do. What I'm basically doing with the engine assembly, I'm going to have one blue LED light in the main central part of the brain be a breathing LED light, while the main engine assembly in the back, I'm going to be using a light blue flickering LED light. This is going to create the engine that it's actually flickering, dispersing the energy evenly. At the same time, it's going to keep things nice and clean and consistent. Alright, my dudes and dudettes, as this video is wrapping up, I want to share with you guys my thoughts and impressions about this model kit. So, the one thing that really struck to me about this model kit was its artistic design on what it was trying to emulate. And there's a lot of characteristics of other sci-fi films that were implemented onto this model kit, such as the Starcraft Discovery from 2001 Odyssey, or the hull from the Millennium Falcon or Superstar Destroyer, or even the ship designs from Starship Troopers. It's definitely heavily emphasized on this design, and I like that. And at the same time, there is some like artistic charms of implementing two unique engine systems, which I thought was kind of weird, but at the same time it worked very well. It definitely invoked that classic 1970s 1980s sci-fi feel when it came to starship designs, and I feel that Iwata really knocked out of the park. Now, my only small gripe with the kit was a tad too small, but it's not designed to take up a lot of space on your workbench. It's meant to be on your office desk or somewhere where other people can love and appreciate it, and I like that. And at the same time, the added bonus of actually including an LED light system for this kit, it's just absolutely a dream come true for something this complex. And I'm very happy I had the opportunity to build it. You know, it didn't take too long to build. It was very easy to assemble. You have tons of options to work with different types of color gray palettes to make this look like how it would look in a feature-length film. And at the same time, the completion time is less than 2 to 3 days. So without any hesitation, buy this kit. It was great. I had a lot of fun, and I know you guys will too. But once again, I need to give a huge shout out to Burbank Hobbies for getting this kit to me as readily as available it was. At the same time, thank you dudes and dudettes for helping me supporting this channel, for making me build these model kits. I do appreciate the love and support. And if you have the time, please give this video a thumbs up, give it a like and share, and I will see you dudes and dudettes on the next video.